Hey, how are you?
Fine, thank you, Christy. You're okay? Yeah.
Yes, I'm doing great.
Yeah.
Excited to have this conversation. Um, Something that's been percolating for both of us for a minute here. Um, it's funny because what was coming to me right before we jumped on was I was reading an article this morning about the butterfly effect.
Yeah.
Right. And which is basically like if a butterfly flaps its wings, on the other side of the world, like it can cause a typhoon or something. Like it's just like kind of a cool, idea. And they've proven scientifically some truth to that on a
Yeah.
milder levels. But with what we've been talking about around, the true power of being in your resonance and how the energy of anything that we do say, where it's coming from is creating that result, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
and the importance of the small fine tuning of that as we move through different layers of our personal life and our business, like whatever we're working on. And and so we were talking about how um the like really dialing into where you actually in your true essence and your true energy.
Yeah, it's we were sort of talking also about finding the path that's like a continuation of where success lies for you, and
Yes.
that fact that we don't actually know what success looks like for us. We think that we know what that is, but unfortunately you then go down a programmed rabbit hole of like chasing money, chasing popularity,
Mm.
chasing all the things that we think we should be chasing in order to make ourselves happy and
Yeah.
secure.
Because the mind can only
Yeah,
see what it's already seen.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. That is part of the problem, you see, because what the world has already been created, it's always already the manifested. And how do we get to a place where we're preceding the manifested so that we can create something new? And that newness, that life, that let's call it, that we create, has to then work for us and make us, give us pleasure, and in order to find the key to that, um, in my opinion, and this is also the key to good health and well-being generally, is to recognize this energy, which is what we call the life force, that is flowing through us. And like as a homeopath, this was my kind of mantra for many years, is that rather than trying to fix the problems in your life and fix your illness, all you have to do is fully align to your life force that wants to express itself through you and take away the blocks that are stopping that from happening, if that's possible. And obviously, when we're in our bodies and in our minds, that's a difficult thing to spot. You can't spot it directly, but only indirectly, the blocks, So the best thing is just to align to the life force, and the life force will naturally correct any behaviors or any misalignments, automatically, so that we can just go into free flow. So it's almost like let the train take the strain. That was like an advert in the 70s in England. It's like rather than driving your car, sit on the train and let the train do the hard work,
Mhm.
And, for me, it's all about, it's all well and good talking about this stuff. There's great theories and all the rest of it. But
Yeah.
we need to how we can practically do that right now, this minute,
Right.
So it's quite a deep journey actually, because we only know ourselves based on our past. We only know, and then we start to have rules about how we're allowed to be. This is not conscious, but it's just how we live our lives. And
Mhm.
so there's an exercise we can all do to start to discover how we start aligning, or and where the map is, where how we start to understand how to be truly aligned to our life force. So one thing we discussed before was, think of a time in your life or a situation in your life where you feel 100% authentic, where you are allowed to be you no matter what, where you're not scared of being judged, where you feel free because you're no longer monitoring and criticizing yourself, and you're
Mhm.
no longer controlling the outcomes. And
Mhm.
so you can go into free flow. Like, for example, now I'm just talking in free flow, really. I
Mhm.
think for a lot of people, when they talk in free flow, some of the best stuff comes out rather than trying to modify and tailor it to a particular audience or a particular outcome, you know. So so by being consciously talking about things, but at the same time allowing the energy that's coming from your heart, because this energy is coming from your heart, can fully flow without you having to kind of try and control that, you know. So we could use you as an example, if you're okay to do that.
Yeah.
And you could be the guinea pig, and I want everyone who's listening to this to kind of just remember a time when you feel very, very alive, very, very authentic, and you feel very heard and very received, so that somehow your environment really responds very well to you, where you're no longer scared that they're going to respond badly to what you're actually giving out, you know. And also feeling that almost deep satisfaction that you're now allowed to be you, you know. So what would you say is the sort of situations where you love being in the most?
Yeah, I think when I really like feel into that, and I think especially the part where you're saying like you also felt like received, and like there's a recognition too, I think that happens with
Mm,
those around you. And for me, it's amongst my colleagues.
mm, mm,
Um, it's amongst like people who are in this conversation. Um, because there's something about there's a part of my energetics that really fully comes online because it can see the bigger picture of what wants to be built around people who are in the transformation space right now.
mm. So there's something in you that likes to network and create new ideas based
Mhm.
on your peer group, who are
Yes.
also on a similar journey. You're all running parallel. And
Yes.
so that's already telling us that the kind of roles you like playing is building communities and networks, you
Yeah.
know, rather than, say, working with clients where, you know, you're kind of doing a job or something. So it's more about the community and network,
Mm-hmm.
that where you start to become more alive, in a
Yes.
sense, where more of you become unleashed, in a
Yes.
sense, you know.
Yeah, that's a good word, unleashed.
Yeah, unleashed. And you know, many of us, the other way to access that is also thinking about, what did you do as a child, you know, what did you naturally do when you weren't being kind of you know, ordered about or controlled, or you know, when you were allowed to be you. And
Mm-hmm.
also part of that whole deal is when you enjoyed the outcomes of what you were doing, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know whether you can access anything from your childhood when you felt very free.
I felt very free. Yeah, I mean, for me as a child, at my freest moments were, you know, honestly playing alone in nature. I enjoyed being with myself and being with nature and
Yeah,
swinging, things like that. Just,
yeah.
yeah.
So you're being sort of very reflective, you know, very
Yes.
reflective, and allowing the beauty of nature to communicate to you,
Mhm.
you know, because it's a kind of sense of receiving, isn't it? You know, and for many of us, that's when we become restored, when we receive, because the unnatural world, or the human world, is kind of forcing kind of energies on us that kind of feel very disharmonious, in a sense,
Yes, that's so
you know.
true. Yeah.
So what you really love is harmony. You know, if you think about plants, they just naturally work in a very balanced and harmonious way,
Mhm.
even though they can be very different, very you know, diverse. They all seem to work together, don't they?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so again, there's a link, isn't there, between you working with your peer group,
Mhm.
being nature, and understanding this is my truth. It's where
Yeah.
you can have the birds, the trees, the insects, all kinds of harmonizing together, where there's no
Mhm.
competition, there's no there's just an enmeshment. You know, we know how nature works. It's very synergistic, isn't it? It's that
Yes.
we need the insects to pollinate the plants, you know,
Mhm.
birds to kind of do their thing and eat the insects, and it's all it's all in perfect harmony. And all the elements, because I talk about the elements, birds and plants are two opposing forces, because birds represent fire, so it's all about doing, and plants represent water, which is about connecting and healing. So you can start to, so fire is the masculine, which is the doership, and plants is the feminine, which is the feelership, and how the feeling and the doing can become one, how they seamlessly mesh with each other without needing to be the same. Now, when you tend to be like a harmonizer, because a lot of people love harmonizing, the danger is they like to then harmonize only with their own kind. So if you think about monoculture, which is, say, more of an agricultural state, it's great, but then you have to keep cultivating it unnaturally. So again, so you understand the wisdom of when all plants and species and animals and everything can start to come as one, where there is no problem. So the wisdom of nature is already naturally allowing that all to happen, And
it's funny because I made a post this morning on my social media about that, almost this exact thing, which, the synchronicities are always so fun to see, right?
But into the same thing, aren't we?
We really are.
Yeah.
But just that in the new paradigm, as we've moved out of this lack matrix into like an abundance matrix, that we're all trying to, find our way around in creating in new ways. It is about everyone being in their sovereign individuality, but coming together to create the tapestry of the whole.
Yeah.
Which is about co-creation, collaboration, and which you're using the word harmony. I use the word communion, because I think at the deepest core of our humanity, what we really want is communion.
Yes, exactly. We want that oneness, that feeling of oneness.
Without losing our individuality.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the paradox, isn't it? Because if we look at the way society works, that ultimately looks okay, but ultimately has got a sell-by date. As I said, with the agriculture, there's a sell-by date, which at some point you have to pay a price for it. At some point you have to start using chemicals to make it work artificially. Right. And so it's like we have to start to recognize that the unified field, which is the quantum field, is the field of infinite possibilities. So the only way we can get into that unified field is where we cover both paradoxes, which is individuality as well as collectivism. How can we all be in the same space but yet retain individuality? So if you think about society, we do the opposite, where everybody who's allowed to become a member of a society, let's call it culture, which is a long word for cult, if I'm cynical about it, is that we say, as friendship groups, we look for people who are similar to us, like birds of a feather flock together. Now that's okay, but then you get competition, because you're all the same, trying to be the same thing and the same person. And then you get the competition, you get therefore the takers and the givers, and that always creates disharmony, because you can never harmonize, because one of you, a giver, will have to sacrifice something, and a taker will kind of like also sacrifice something, which is disconnecting from their own feeling space, so society, like I say, cannot be fixed if the foundation of society is actually wrong. And this is why we have to first of all change it internally for us, which is that within us we have to start squaring, how do we remain individual? And the solution to me is going back to what we originally said. You have to align to your life force no matter what. Unconditionality. So you stop allowing anything to become a condition to you being okay just as you are when you stop trying, because that life force is already when we start to live in that way, we start to realize that everything we ever need and want comes from that alignment, even though somebody might say, oh my God, how are you going to pay the bills if you're just watching nature all day? You know, but yet when we start to look at things energetically, we start to realize the energy does all the work. And it's just a myth that the little old us, when we start to push buttons and pull levers, are actually doing the work. We're not actually doing life in that way. We just think we're doing life. A bit like a toddler being pushed by daddy. They think that they're driving the tractor, but
Right.
daddy's pushing the tractor, which is the
Right.
energy is already doing it, you know, so
Right.
it's just a myth. So if we think about, say, your energy, so your energy, from what you're telling me so far, watching nature and allowing, being really comfortable with a peer group, which a lot of people wouldn't be comfortable with because there'd be a lot of competition.
Yeah.
So for you, your natural ability is to harmonize and wants to harmonize everything, even though there is potential competition. You want to bring out the best in others. You know, that's what it's telling us. And you're learning from nature how to do that. So how does nature bring out the best in others? Well, if you look at the insects, they're bringing the best out in the plants. The plants are bringing the best out in the birds. Just mean it, that's how you do it. And you're learning that through everything that you get drawn to doing. It starts to become programmed in you. And if we think about what we observe is how we allow ourselves to be programmed. That's how children become programmed when they're up to the age of 7. That it's not what the parents are telling them, it's how the parents are behaving in front of them actually does the neural programming that then determines how that child behaves in adulthood. So it's not, parents again are thinking it's something to do with what they've said to their children, but really it's more about how they're behaving. So our observations are already programming us, you know, and taking that idea on, if we now want to really consciously align to our life force, there is an exercise we can do, which is something we talked about earlier, which is to ask our heart, how does that look like? What does that look like? How do I behave? What happens in my reality when I start to align to this life force? So maybe again we can do an exercise on this, where when we start to, what should happen is that we get some kind of image or some kind of even storyboard about what that looks like. So for example, you could see a storyboard where you can see yourself watching nature and then how nature does something in return to you. So it's what ancient civilizations call dream time. So the dream time helps us to understand what will that look like, and then by observing it we become imprinted neurologically to then become that flow, become that wisdom that is kind of poetry in motion or energy in motion, you know. So maybe we can do this exercise where, if you're happy to, just close your eyes and I want you to ask your heart, what do I need to know to live my life?
I see like that there's this balance of space and like time with just my own energy and connection.
Mm. Mm. So it's a balance, isn't it? So you're very good at balancing things out, which balance is harmony. That's how our bodies connect. That's how our bodies retain wellness. It's actually hemostasis or balance within us. Balancing out all the different elements that could all be different, but you're creating that balance in all of it to make it synergistic, you know, to make it work.
Yeah, when you said that, what I saw was like whatever I'm holding in the external is about the fact that I can pull back and keep that balance energetically, and then it comes out into whatever community I'm actually
Yes,
holding.
exactly.
That's what
So
I
what
just
that
saw.
means is exactly, so it means synergistically, you might have two opposing people in that community, but
Mhm.
somehow the balance brings harmony and therefore more co-creation, more productivity. You know, so
Mhm.
your
Yes.
job in that community is to balance everything, you
Yeah.
know. So in the traditional way, if we talk about the matrix way, you would become everybody's doormat. You would kind of have to fit around everybody, you
Right.
know, in order for that to happen, to keep the peace. But
Mhm.
who would have to pay the price for that?
Yeah, I would.
You would, through
Yeah.
depletion. Okay, this way you're stepping into your superpower, and therefore you don't have to pay a price for that, because you just have to be quite still and observe and do what you're moved to do, because
Mm.
you are the balancer within the society, and that the productivity that results from that will be testament to you. You know,
Yeah.
the energy will be your testament. So close your eyes again and see that picture, and allow that picture, whichever way it turns up, because it's just a symbolic picture, and allow that movement in the picture to start pervading your energetic field. So imagine your body is like memory foam, and we are 70% water, so water holds memory. So this is how we create a new person within us. And see what you feel.
I can feel like I'm seeing an image which I've had before, but like of a wheel, like a wagon wheel kind of thing with spokes, and that I'm like the hub in the middle. And when I'm in that middle place, and the middle place is kind of like it has like this like deep, dark depth that goes to it that I'm kind of staying in. And inside that place, if I stay in that, in the center, in that hub, in my own like homeostasis, as you said, I feel peace
Mm.
and power.
Yeah, yeah. So there's the paradox, peace and power. So it
Yeah.
means you don't have to do anything in order to have true power in your life. And
Yeah.
just really feel that and let that pervade in your body. Is there a particular part of the body where you feel that?
Yeah, I feel it like in my like sacral and root chakras.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like the foundation of your being. And
Hmm.
also, sacral is about creativity. So it's
Hmm.
how you achieve creativity within your
Hmm.
environment, you know, through co-creation. So co-creation is a key ability that you've got,
Yeah.
you know, which the mind would never understand.
Right.
It's just something that happens when you
Mhm.
follow your bliss. When
Yeah.
you follow whatever you are drawn to follow, and feel when you're allowed to be in a situation where you've already unleashed, that's already your solution. That's already your map to where you need to be.
Mhm.
You know, so
Mhm.
so you know that. I mean, I was telling you earlier on that, you know, when I kind of awoke, I realized a lot of things that I was doing in my life was actually quite futile and just a waste of time, you
Yeah.
know, even though there were logical reasons why I should do it. And, you know, and again, we're talking about temptation. If I flog this horse long enough, something will happen, this dead
Mhm.
horse long enough. But really, you're trying through effort to make things change.
Yeah.
So, and I asked myself the same question, you know, where can I be the most authentic? And for me, it was actually not so much with my peer group, but it was like with my clients, because my clients usually came with very unusual. Now every client has got their own issues, so you have to tailor make whatever you do for your clients. And I knew I'm usually the last person that they visit when they've tried everything else, and I'm usually the last ditch
Yeah.
attempt to trying to get them better. But by the time they come to my door, they are so desperate to find something that they're willing to try anything.
Yeah.
And because I'm a blue sky thinker, and I said, okay, you've now come to a point where you've tried everything else. We're going to try something new now, because you're ready to do that. You know,
Yeah.
you're committed to do that. So I'd love that, because they were willing to then try something new. So that
Yeah.
told me everything that I needed to know about my energy, which is bringing in the new, bringing in new light, new ideas, you know, rather than getting with the program and doing the old. And every time I'm in a situation where I'm scripted to play a particular role, it makes me feel very tired, very sort of lethargic. If people are kind of telling me, well, you need to do this, you can't do this, you have to do this, that's when I know that I'm not in alignment with my essence, you know. So that's my map to where I need to be, you know. So really, this is an exercise that everyone can do watching this, to really nail in very, very specific terms, what situation are you the most effective, you the most free, where you can really unleash your natural energy that just wants to come out of you, where you don't have to edit anything anymore. You can just do what you naturally do. And that's where all your superpowers and that's where all your gifts and talents lie. You know, nothing more complicated than that.
Right.
So one day we'll have schools where children will be helped to unleash that gift, where they say, we're not going to tell the children what to do, the children are going to show us what they naturally do, and then we're going to support them in that, you know. And that's
Yes.
the future, isn't it?
Yes, for
yeah,
sure.
yeah. So yes, so hopefully we've covered a big topic in a very short length of time, and it's something to really explore and align to. But once you've really given yourself permission and support, and then to do that, obviously by being realistic about things, but at the same time being fully committed. It's always about commitment, isn't it? Committed one, and a lot of people now are ready to be committed to a journey that is going to be of far, far greater value than anything else they've ever tried, you know. So
and it's important, I think, to remember, because we talked about this recently too, about, like, you know, we don't get there on our own. No one creates their dreams by themselves, especially I think in the new paradigm.
yeah
But it's confusing, I think, with everything that's out in the transformation space, to know what kind of support you need. But it's really quite simple, and it's exactly what we just highlighted. And it's that the support that you need really is somebody that will continue to hold you in your true essence and resonance, while everything that's not you continues to come up to be witnessed and released.
Yes, exactly
But
right.
as we think we can do that on our own, but it costs us so much time, because we get off course and we're back over in old patterns and all these things. But when somebody is anchoring and holding us in our natural resonance, our true essence, it can be with us as we witness all that's not us and all the pain body coming up and out. We can move so much faster. And so I just add that as
very true, because I know my sort of journey, it's the more I attracted people. Do you remember I said in our matrix world, we're actually we want to be with people who are similar to us. But when you are more opening and you're developing and you're growing into your new soul essence, what happens is that you start to naturally gravitate towards people who are very, very different to you. And I have a very broad brushstroke about, there are two types of people in the world, the electric and the magnetic. So the magnetic is more the feminine, and it's about something that you hold more, that energy, which is about the yin energy. So it's the passivity. And then you've got yang people, and I'm more of a yang person, which is more about thinking and doing, rather than being and bringing out the other. So the magnetic brings things out and the electric does things. And you start to find that I meet more with people who are magnetic, you know, who are not on the same page as me when it comes to beliefs and principles, you know, because we're living by different principles. But when we go beyond that, we recognize only that person can really work with us and help us through the next stage of our journey, you know.
Mhm.
And we have to go beyond our judgments of that person, or what they do or how they do that, you know. And then we get completely out of competition, we get into collaboration, but true collaboration, you
Right.
know,
Yes.
where it becomes a very mutually beneficial experience, you know,
Yeah.
where the electric can help to enlighten the magnetic, and the magnetic can help to show harmony and love to the electric. And again, you know, the mind doesn't choose that option, you know, it doesn't
No.
like that. So we have to start going into our essence and going into that visualization and showing you how you start to move your body, how you start to move in your energy, in order, and then the people, place, and things just turn up in your reality.
Yes.
You know,
Yep.
that's the bit you don't have to worry about, you know.
Yes.
So my cat's gravitating towards me at the moment.
She wants to be a part of the
I
conversation.
know, that's right, yeah. That's great. So yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
this is
so
a great,
yes,
great conversation.
yeah,
Yeah.
brilliant. Well,
That
it's
it's
lovely to
helpful
talk
to
to you.
others.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, and leave comments below if you find it interesting or helpful, or if you
Yeah.
want us to talk about anything else.
Yeah. Let us know.
Yeah,
Sounds really great. All
yeah,
right.
brilliant. Well, take
Thank
care,
Take
Christy,
care.
and see you soon.
Okay.